welcome back to the mobile studios of Sparks 1524. I'm still Nathaniel Miller, and I will tell you if that ever changes. I have returned to the Grand Canyon. When I came here the first time, I stayed on the eastern half of the South Rim, which is much less popular, it's not unpopular, but it's much less popular and much less crowded. I tend to advocate exploring those areas because you have less people, and there's often things there people overlook because they're on the beaten path. But sometimes it's definitely worth going on the beaten path because that path is beaten and popular for a reason. Now, the Grand Canyon Railroad was originally started by the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe Railroad back in 1901, and it was a spur running from Williams, Arizona, 60 miles up to the Grand Canyon. This cut the travel time from Williams, which was considered, for almost since its founding, the gateway to the Grand Canyon. It cut the travel time from an 8-hour stagecoach ride to a 2-hour train ride. The Grand Canyon Village, right on the South Rim, grew up around the depot. In this area are historic landmarks, and the ones that I'm going to mention are the ones that stuck out to me because they were all designed by Mary Jane Coulter. She was a remarkable early 20th century architect, and a number of structures along the South Rim were built under her guiding hand. The Bright Angel Lodge, Lookout Studio, and the Hopi House are 3 of her buildings that are right there in the village. Now, the Bright Angel Lodge lends its name to the Trailhead that I'm going to talk about in a minute, and it takes its name from a Thunderbird statue, or Thunderbird carving, that she had hung in the lodge's main lobby. She called this beautiful Thunderbird piece her Bright Angel. I was not expecting to actually descend into the canyon this time. When I was here last time, I didn't descend into the canyon. I spent my time on the rim because there's so much to explore up there. I did not realize that the Bright Angel Trailhead was right there in the canyon village. Now, I was still prepared for a hike. I had plenty of water, water, extra food, my hiking stick, my camera, all the things you need. I had planned to do a lot of hiking around the village and out along the rim, but there was a hiking trail that actually descended into the canyon, and it turns out it's one of the most popular trails for many reasons. For one, obviously, it's right there in the village. It's easily accessible. For another, it's considered a corridor trail by the Park Service. Basically, it's a major artery to get into the canyon, so the Park Service maintains it regularly, and it's very easy to hike. Be prepared for it. You will be blasted by the sun most of the way. There's very few places with shade, and if any wind is blowing, you're in a canyon. That wind will pick up and whip dust around. Again, be prepared, and don't overestimate yourself. It is easy to get injured, especially from heat injuries. But if you're prepared, taking this trail is definitely one of the times I will highly recommend taking the beaten path. You will discover petroglyphs that are over 4,000 years old up in Marshes Grotto. If you look up at one point, above you, just under an overhanging ledge, you will see a series of red-painted deer and even further along, some human figures. The people that painted these over 4,000 years ago are not known to us. These petroglyphs are so old that their artists, that the people who painted them, the cultures that created them, are legend even to the native peoples who live there today. Further down as you walk, the view is magnificent. As you descend and the canyon rim goes above you, it's an almost overwhelming feeling of just the scale and the size of this place. But I do recommend you sometimes take a look away from the canyon and study the canyon wall. In fact, I had some fun with some other tourists while I was there because I was staring at the canyon wall half the time, and I'd be looking at the wall and people would stop and look and look and look and look, and finally ask me, well, what are you looking at? That fossil right there. Most of the Grand Canyon, at the upper 1/3 of it, it's made up of different layers, but these layers at different times were all the floor of an ancient seabed. These canyon walls are littered with seagoing fossils, shells, fossilized worm tubes, things like that. If you look, you'll find them. Another very moving experience I had was watching California condors fly. Now, I'm old enough to remember when the California condor was about to go extinct. In fact, back in the late 1980s, when I was in high school, I remember reading an article that said there was less than 30 of these birds left in the world, and all of them were in captivity as conservationists tried to repopulate and save the species. That was in the late 1980s. There's less than 600 of those birds now, but they are back in the wild, and they are flying. Petroglyphs, fossils, and condors, all at the same place. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you didn't, thank you for sticking with me to the end. I do appreciate it. If you did enjoy it, I would ask that you hit the like button and also hit the subscribe button so you can keep up with me as I continue my journeys. If you would like to read more about the Grand Canyon and my adventures yesterday, check out my column. It's linked in the description below. It goes into a little more detail. Thank you again for your time. I look forward to seeing you on the next broadcast, and in the meantime, go and do great things.